You're retro trekking with the Caramel Apples podcast. This week we're talking about The Breakfast Club from 1985, how one detention changed teen movies forever, with your host Kennedy Rizzo and Cooper Lee. Welcome back to Retro Trek with the Caramel Apples Orchard Archivers, the show where we break down iconic movies that shape pop culture and maybe shaped us a little bit in the long run too. Today we're talking about one of the most legendary teen films of all time, The Breakfast Club.
So before we get into our Saturday morning torture chamber, be sure to subscribe. If you are catching us on YouTube, make sure to like this episode and feel free to stop by, say hello to us on one or all of the socials. And how about some sweet coffee and a splash of cream for your favorite apples? Visit buymeacoffee.com/RetroTrek Caramel Apples. We can't espresso how much we appreciate you. So yes, as mentioned before, The Breakfast Club, if you've ever felt misunderstood, labeled, or stuck in a box you didn't choose, this movie probably hit hard for you. Even decades later, The Breakfast Club still feels incredibly relevant.
Oh, that is truer words haven't been spoken, Coop. This film was released on February 15th, 1985, directed by the king of 80s teen cinema himself, director John Hughes. So, just a real quick little bit on John Hughes, because this sets up what our memories are surrounding the concept of what the Breakfast Club and some of his other works were about. But we're excited to always talk about these kind of retro scenarios and topics because just about anything and everything 70s and 80s, it does it for us. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
But again, realistically, one cannot talk about the 80s and not talk about the spot on portrayal of school life and culture of the 80s better than the top choice throwback movie we're going to discuss this week. So, John Hughes directed it, and through the vision of this brilliant guy, his films were quite iconic indeed. Like if someone cold asked you to describe how school life and culture was back in the day, you may be able to describe it somewhat successfully, but I'd wager you just throw in one of John Hughes's movies and you're looking at the perfect definition of what school life was back then. Young love and turmoil we actually experienced as those kinds of students back in the 80s.
Yeah, and Kennedy, wouldn't you say that it's almost like John Hughes or whoever was doing his cinematography was just following actual students around, schools at that time? Because he really did capture the feeling of what it was like to walk in those hallways.
Oh, yeah.
Like changing classes and, sitting beside your friends in the classrooms, and getting ready for gym class and everything
Yeah.
just felt like you stepped into the world or
Yes.
stepped out of our world into that world. It just married very, very well, seamlessly, I would say.
It really did. And he was a master at this because, he had a talent for this coming of age perspective and the stories that he crafted around it. He was good at depicting fairly adolescent characters in turmoil or right in the thick of their coming of age. But I wonder where his brilliant inspiration came from. So just clip notes because we're just glad that he was able to do this for us, because he is and his vision is a fond part of our younger years. But
Yeah.
I know from our show we did an actual show on John Hughes seasons ago, just like we were teenagers seasons ago.
Yeah, seasons.
But he grew up with three sisters. He was the baby boy, that was his sibling. So you know how sisters are with brothers. Don't ask our younger brother that because he'll probably give you a pretty solid rendition of that as well.
Right.
All in good fun and love. But, then he was always kind of by himself, imaginative child, like there was older people in his neighborhood. They moved around a lot. So like, these are all kind of the building blocks of him being kind of a lonely child trying to figure the world out.
Yeah.
And I guess in high school, junior high, high school, he was kind of a lone wolf. So, like he's just kind of like, oh, this is what it is. And, he felt invisible. He felt like, I don't know what to do with this. But yeah, he ended up doing something with that because his high school experiences reportedly provided the inspiration for his teen themed films. And according to interviews with his friends, Hughes had a poor relationship with his parents who often criticized him. So that didn't help. That's another layer.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were just into probably just trying to make sure there was food on the table and roof over the head. I think a lot of parents back then were more commando when it come to that. So, he was a child of that. With that being a tragedy in itself, if he was going to look at it as glass half empty, he didn't do that. He decided to turn his soul situation around and put his personal troubles to good use by making lemonade out of lemons. Now we have these film offerings, nostalgic film offerings like The Breakfast Club that we
Yeah.
cannot wait to get to talk about this week.
So richly lemony indeed, and we love that. We love it.
We do. And what's wild is that in this movie, The Breakfast Club, it mostly takes place in one room during one Saturday morning detention. That is so 80s. And it became a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah, and for anyone who somehow missed it, The Breakfast Club follows five high school students from totally different social groups who are stuck together in an all day detention at a fictional Shermer High School in Illinois.
Oh, yes, you got the perfect setup here. And I forgot to say, yeah, John Hughes was from the Chicago area. I think that was his old stomping ground. So this is where this movie takes place.
Okay, so again, hand in glove, right? Like it just goes together.
That's right. So again, here's our setup. We got the brain, who was Brian Johnson, the athlete, Andrew Clark, the basket case, Allison Reynolds, the princess, Claire Standish, and the criminal, John Bender. Each one represents a classic high school stereotype, but the movie's whole point is tearing those labels apart.
Yeah, and by the end, they realize they're not as different as they thought, which is interesting, right? They're bonding over this terrible place, that they don't really want to be, but they end up bonding, and it's really cool. And that idea alone was pretty revolutionary for teen movies in the mid 80s.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it was like that is just bang. Real quick, Coop, I am embarrassed to say this, but I am very familiar with pop culture, but The Breakfast Club was one of those movies I just recently saw.
Shh, what's the matter with you?
We won't hold it against you, but I am appalled.
Hmm?
Yeah. It was very good when I finally saw it. I don't know what stopped me from seeing it anytime sooner, but I don't know. But anyway, it was very good. So I'm glad that we're actually covering this because now I have a fresh perspective after seeing it recently,
Yeah,
and I feel like I can, you know, infuse my excitement for what it portrayed better than just going off of pop culture.
absolutely. Because for you, you're like, it probably felt like, man, I just stepped back into my own life, right? Like I just
It
stepped
did.
back in time to what I did back then.
It did. It did. It was very nostalgic. Yeah.
Hmm. I love it. I love, still appalled, but welcome. I'm glad you caught up.
You know me, sis. All right, so let's talk about how school was in the 80s. You know, the world of the Breakfast Club was wildly different from what school probably is today.
Yeah. So first of all, we can just straight off say no smartphones. No social media. It's cool, but it's not. It wasn't back then.
Right.
No texting friends under the desk. If you wanted to message or pass a message to your friend, you had to actually pass a physical note.
Woe is me, boy. We had to work so hard.
I know, and hope that the teacher didn't catch you doing it.
That's right. And then if they did catch you, detention. Detention. That struck fear in your heart.
Yes.
So the tension in the 80s was no joke. And in the Breakfast Club, they're stuck in detention in the library for 9 hours on a Saturday.
Woohoo.
No headphones, no laptops, just your thoughts and each other.
No, 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 no! No, please! No!
Yeah, so a quick mention about detention. Yes. Kennard and I both had our brush with it.
Shh.
Cough, cough.
Literally, though, it was from being tardy, though, if I'm not mistaken. Wasn't yours for being tardy?
100%.
Yeah, so there it is. We weren't real bad cut ups, but they put the hammer down, right? They're like,
Yeah, yeah.
we mean what we say. So if you're late or you're doing this or that, it's going to get you that. And we did our stint in detention. But anyway,
Yeah. Did you do it more than once or only once?
I think I did it twice.
Okay, I did it only once. That was enough for me.
Okay.
That was torture. That is our time. Saturday? No, not happening. No bueno.
Yeah, no bueno indeed. If I did it twice, that was it. But yeah, it's like repeat offender, no doubt.
Oh, Coop was always the wild one of the two of us, so I can believe that she did it twice.
But you know, onto what you have just mentioned, like with the no laptops and things like that, what would make Saturday morning very different now. Um, School also back then, mental health wasn't talked about the way it is now.
Right.
You have like the character of Allison, her behavior and Brian's breakdown over grades. They got very real in this, and even Bender's abusive home life. Today, those kids might have counselors, IEPs
Mm,
or support systems, really.
that's right. So, okay, you got to remind me, Coop. So, real quick, Allison, that was Ali Sheedy, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that was Ali Sheedy, and Bender, John Bender was. Give me a second, just a minute. I'm trying to do this off what I just saw. Judd Nelson.
Yes.
Now Brian is Emilio, right? Estevez.
No.
No, that's your favorite, Anthony Michael Hall, right?
That's it. Yes.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I can't. Well, let's see. Hold on. Oh, Andrew Clark was Emilio.
Emilio Estevez, the mighty Duckman. I swear to God, I was there.
Hmm?
Of course you were. You were the one who yelled the Breakfast Clubber's name. I was like, Emilio!
myself back up. I'm sorry. Yes, like I said, I'm a latecomer, folks. You have to just work with me. Sorry.
No, you did good. You did good.
But back then it was more like just deal with it, right? So with the
Yeah,
mental health you were speaking of, like it was very taboo. Nobody spoke about it, but it was clearly evident around us.
true. Yes.
But you just had to tough it out. So that's the part of what makes this movie so real and raw.
Yeah. And another big difference, let's just call it authority figures, right? Principal Vernon, he represents a very strict authoritarian school system.
hmm
Teachers weren't expected to be your friend or to even understand you or try to understand you.
Right. And compare that to today's schools where there's much more emphasis on emotional intelligence, inclusion, and student voice. It's not perfect, but there's definitely a difference. So, I mean, I guess that's a nice change.
That's it. That's it. And, since you were doing the rundown, we briefly mentioned who the characters were and what role they played in it. And you were going over who the actors were. Let's get into that a little bit.
Okay, okay.
Let's start with Molly Ringwald. She played Claire, as you mentioned, the princess. That was kind of her quintessential role, right? She was basically the face of 80s teen movies.
She really was. And she worked with John Hughes multiple times, like in 16 Candles. That's a huge 80s one.
Yes.
Um, Pretty in Pink. And of course,
Yeah.
The Breakfast Club.
Fun fact, the role of Claire was actually written specifically for her.
Well, they did a good job with that because she did pull it off. She did a real good job. I like that.
I do too. I do too. And I would love to do a tally if there was ever a way to find out how many times somebody did write a movie role for someone specific in mind and that person played the role. I would love to know that.
hmm Yeah, it
But
would be cool. No.
yeah.
Okay, so this guy was a hot mess here. Now let's talk about Judd Nelson as John Bender for a second.
Sure thing. Yes.
He was unhinged.
What are we having? Just your standard regular lunch, I guess. Milk? Soup. Oh, that's apple juice. I can read. PB&J with the crusts cut off. Well, Brian, this is a very nutritious lunch. All the food groups are represented. Did your mom marry Mr. Rogers? No, Mr. Johnson. Huh.
The way he looked, his eyes, he'd get those wild eyes, right?
And those nostrils, right? Kind of get to flaring.
So he perfectly portrayed the rebel, the criminal, the character everyone remembers, who we're laughing about it now.
Yes, totally. And apparently, Judd Nelson stayed in character even when the cameras weren't rolling, which didn't land well with the rest of the cast or John Hughes.
What's the matter with you?
Also, he was authentically rebellious.
Yes.
But Coop, that intensity worked.
Mm-hmm.
Bender became one of the most iconic bad boys in movie history, and his final fist pump scene is legendary, as we all saw in the lovable movie Bumblebee, because he was watching TV trying to acclimate in his little film.
Yes.
He was influenced because he did the whole fist pump, didn't he? Well, actually, we did a show on that, so we'll link that in the show notes.
Yeah, and that fist pump really is like, if you haven't seen the movie, I bet you, and I can ask you specific, that is probably something, a pop culture reference you knew even without seeing the movie.
It was.
Am I
It
right?
was.
Yeah, so there it is. There it
Mhm.
is. So cool.
It is
Now,
cool.
Emilio Estevez. He
Emilio!
played
Emilio Estevez, the Breakfast Clubber's name. I was like, Emilio!
He played Andrew, the athlete struggling with pressure from his father.
Okay.
So here's a real life fun fact. Emilio is actually part of Hollywood royalty. He's the son of Martin Sheen and brother of Charlie Sheen. So please raise your hand if you didn't know that. But you know what? We love giving fun facts here. Some people might not know
What's the matter with you?
We do. And Charlie Sheen, his brother, is a hot mess. My
that.
goodness,
Oh my
he's very
gosh.
entertaining
Yes.
because he's winning. He's nuts. I can watch him. He is nuts.
He is. Absolutely.
Later on him. But in this movie with Brother Emilio, he really showed the vulnerability for the athlete, especially in the scene where he admits hurting someone just to please his dad. That is 80s talk right there. That is back when our generation was in school. Like you could tell a lot had home problems or just
Yes.
confusion about where they fit in and belong and trying to please people that weren't giving you an edge. Parents were talking to you.
And like we said, parents were parents, just like the teachers were the teachers. They weren't trying to be the kid's best friend.
Yeah.
They
Mm-hmm.
were just, you're the kid, and I'm going to tell you what to do in my home. I provide a roof and food for you. You listen to me.
It makes sense. It worked.
Yeah.
Might be kicking rocks down the road, but it worked. So next on our roster is one of Coop's favorite actors from back when is Anthony Michael Hall.
Yes.
And he was actually only 16 years old during filming when he played Brian the Brain.
Yeah. And you know what? His emotional confession about considering suicide over a bad grade was shockingly heavy for a teen movie in 1985.
It was. It
I
was,
think,
yes.
yeah, and I think it would still land very heavy today.
Yeah.
But he was still going for what might really be happening for some.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He didn't shy away from it, but yeah, that is a heavy topic. We do not handle that lightly at all. But he went there, so you know that was his character.
That's it. And we're so soft now as a society, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
But that moment alone, Coop, shows why The Breakfast Club stood apart from other high school movies of the time. So, I mean, there is that. It was powerful.
Truth. Yeah. And then, here we have Ali Sheedy, who played Allison, as you mentioned, and she was the mysterious bad kiss. English, please. Basket case. It's like just her presence there, like she was watching people and she was just like hiding behind her hair, like she really did bring that air of mystery to the character.
I agree. She was spot on with that character, and she
She
barely
was.
talks for the first half of the movie, which you said she's
Yes.
very intense.
Yes.
But not saying much, she still somehow steals every scene.
Very cool. Like you have to be good in your role, right? Your
Yeah.
character isn't even speaking and you have to be able to stand out. And she did. She totally did. So, her stealing the scenes, also, her makeover scene is still kind of debated today because there's always people of opinion. There's always school of opinion. There's people who loved it, and there's other who undermine its individuality, feeling like, okay, now she's just becoming part of everything else.
Mm.
So, you know, weigh in if you have an idea or how you feel about it. Do you feel like it took something away from her as her character, or do you go, hey, yeah, you know what? It was just a bonding moment. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question there. So, why does the Breakfast Club still resonate nearly 40 years later?
Because labels still exist. That's why,
Yep,
right?
they sure
You
do.
know, teen pressure still exists.
Hmm.
And the fear of not being understood still exists.
Yes, which we are happily child free, so we don't have a dog in that fight. But we do have friends that have teenagers and stuff now that we can actually see it playing out in real time.
Yeah,
And it's heartbreaking because you remember back when you were young struggling, but then you see the newer generations, the younger generations struggling, like Gen Alpha and whatever, and it's like, oh, you can get through this. You're good. You're fine.
that's yes, absolutely.
So even though technology and school systems have changed, the emotional core hasn't.
Yeah. So John Hughes trusted teenagers enough to give them real dialogue, real pain, and real growth that cannot be understated or overstated, which is it? Anyway, like you can't say it enough. And that's why this movie endures.
So at the end of the day, the Breakfast Club reminds us that we're all a little bit of the brain, the athlete, the basket case, the princess, and the criminal.
Maybe that's why this movie will never get old.
Hmm. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and tell us, who were you in high school? Thanks for listening.